All right, welcome to the Lovecraft eZine broadcast
Having a little trouble hearing, but it's kind of going in and out.
podcast. Welcome to the Lovecraft eZine podcast. Hey, Aaron, can you hear me? Guess not. This is March the 4th, 2018, and Aaron J. French is our guest, but I'm not sure if he can hear me or not. He can hear me before the show. You there, Aaron? Hmm. Yeah, I know you can hear me, Eduardo. I'm gonna have to edit all this out for the podcast. You okay, Aaron? Can you hear me?
I'm not hearing you.
Um, okay, we may have to get you in a few weeks or so. Um, that's funny because the test worked fine. Sending him a message here. Sorry for the viewers. We'll talk about some other stuff in a minute.
I just unmuted myself. Can Aaron hear us?
No, looks like not.
So it went bad when we muted.
No, I don't think that's the problem. So give me a second. All right. Well, let's start the broadcast. See, welcome to the Lovecraft eZine podcast. This is March the 4th, 2018. Sorry for the inconvenience for those couple of minutes. Aaron J. French was going to be our guest, and we did a video test with him, and he was fine before the show, and suddenly he's not fine. So I'm not sure what's going on with that. But we've got some other things we can talk about. Let's see here. You know, I was watching a movie that for scary movie night that my son and my wife wanted us to watch. My son picked it out, a movie called Creep on Netflix. Have you guys seen this? No?
No.
I have not.
Well, it was just okay. All right. I mean, it was watchable, but it was kind of a found footage, just okay type of thing. But it's got a 96% rating on Rotten Tomatoes, which made me think Rotten Tomatoes is getting more and more inaccurate, I think. You ever go to Rotten Tomatoes, Rick, to see if you want to watch a movie or not?
No, I never really got to see if I want to watch a movie. I just look at how a movie's doing for box office when it first comes out with Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've stumbled across the Rotten Tomatoes thing, but I have a tendency to kind of ignore stuff like that. I listen to people I know. I know what they like. I know what they don't like. They have some sense of what I like and don't like. Those generalized... Plus, anybody can say anything nowadays. So, how do I know who these people are rating the thing? So, but I'm aware of Rotten Tomatoes.
Well, if I understand the way it works, and maybe I don't, but it adds up all the critic. It basically goes by the critical posts, doesn't it, Rick?
I think it adds up the reviews or the ratings that you give it after you've seen the movie. You plug in.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it goes by audience reviews. In other words, it's not by, like, if I were to go post about a movie on Rotten Tomatoes, my review would not factor into the score. I have to be a critic.
I thought it was everybody.
Oh, I didn't
like I said, I
were...
could be wrong.
See, I thought it was just general people spread out across the internet. I didn't think of it as the review in the Wall Street Journal and the review in the Guardian. If it was a summation or some, where they were examining, the L.A. Times and the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal and the Guardian, and then saying, between those, this movie gets this. That would change the equation to me.
There were people who were trying to sabotage it, though, because when Black Panther came out, there was some posts by angry DC fans who were going to give it low scores without having seen it.
Oh, really? Okay.
So
well,
that's why I think
I'm never going to trust Rotten Tomatoes again, because this movie, was this the worst movie ever? Creep? No. And it was somewhat interesting, but this was not a close to 100% score movie. You know what I mean?
Mm.
So, I guess I should explain, first of all, a couple things for those who are listening and watching. I'm very sorry that Aaron French isn't here. We did successful video tests, like I said, and he was talking with us before the show. Everything was fine, but then suddenly everything went to hell. So, which I guess happens from time to time. What I'm going to try to do after the show is email Aaron and try to get him back on in a few weeks or so. And I'm not sure why it happened, but Google Hangouts can be very, very moody. Now, Pete's not here. Haven't heard from Pete, but Kelly and Philip aren't here. Kelly, reason Kelly is not here, but he wanted me to say that he was having sex with supermodels, and couldn't make it. So I think he'll be here next week.
It's good that he still has dreams. So,
Oh yeah.
Well, he's
unreachable dream.
He's trying to emulate an important person. Him who is not to be named.
Yeah. So anyway, I think all those guys will be back next week. So it's us three today, I guess. So I don't know. I'm never going to trust Rotten Tomatoes again. It wasn't that great of a movie. So,
have either of you ever seen a movie called Slither by James Gunn?
I saw it a long time ago. Did you like it?
Yeah, it was a alien monster from outer, who was sort of a life form which takes over it makes human zombies to all intents and purposes. It was worm-like spores. And I thought it was very entertaining. It had a lot of the actors who you see in supporting roles in Guardians of the Galaxy. Michael Rooker gave an excellent performance. He was probably the main character in the movie.
Yeah.
He plays Yondu in Guardians, if you don't know who I'm talking about.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I know who he is.
And it does have if you look very closely, and you really have to have microscopic eyes, in the cabinets of the collector, you have the spores from Slither in the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie.
Say that again?
In the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie, when you have this character called the Collector who collects things from all around outer space, he has the spores from Slither in one of his cabinets.
Oh, really?
You have to have Mike. If somebody hadn't pointed it out to me, I wouldn't have realized that's what it's supposed to be.
Well, what have you guys seen lately? I want to talk about a couple other movies that I've seen. Joe, I know you've been had bad health, so you may not have seen much, but if you did, let me know. I saw a movie called Open House. Like I said, we do scary movie night once a week or once every 2 weeks at the Davis house. It's me and my wife and my 15-year-old son. So Logan picked out a movie called Open House, and I just saw Kevin Percy on the Lovecraft eZine group message board said that he hated it. Well, I watched the trailer on Netflix. I didn't think I was going to like it, but it was really good. Actually, I thought it was pretty good. I tend to go for I like my horror to be supernatural. You know what I mean? and this was not a supernatural horror movie, but there were some surprises in it, things that I wasn't expecting. So if you haven't seen Open House, talking to the listeners now, check it out. It's on Netflix. Let me know if you agree with me or not. So I'm not saying it's a great movie, but I thought it was okay. I thought it was pretty good.
No, you raised an interesting question.
Yeah.
Do you feel disappointed if you're watching a movie which looks like it's going to be supernatural and it has a natural explanation, like it's a madman or a serial killer rather than something from beyond the void?
Me personally, yeah. What about you, Joe?
I'm a yes and no. It depends. It depends on the movie and how well it's done. In general, yeah, I would be disappointed, but not. That doesn't mean I always would. There's other factors.
There's also, they kind of have it both ways where it turns out, oh, it's a guy faking the whole thing, but there really is a monster out there who doesn't like to be impersonated.
Yeah.
That has less a chance of me liking it, but again, maybe. It's
Although,
one of
all
those.
that said, I do like Scooby-Doo, Rick. So.
Well, I kind of knew going, it's something like, if you know going, it's just like, I like kind of the Baskervilles, but I know going in, it's not, it's a fake.
Right. It's Sherlock Holmes. It's not going to be paranormal.
Now, one of the things, we've had William Mikey on, who does the Carnacki series, which is a continuation of William Hope Hodgson.
Oh, William Meikle? Yeah.
William Meikle, rather.
I think that's the right pronunciation.
Well, in the original Carnacki series, sometimes it was supernatural, and sometimes it was fake, and one or two times it was both. And that's the surprise, because then you don't know what's going on, and that can work if the writer is skillful enough.
Yeah. Yeah. I also saw last night. This is not horror, but I really enjoyed it. Horror on the Orient Express, the new one.
I want to see that so bad.
You hate me now, don't you, Joe?
You mean murder? You mean Murder on the Orient Express, not horror on the Orient.
The two films that are top my list to see, and Rick will be surprised, is I want to see the film of the Jeff Vandermeer Annihilation.
Yeah, seen it.
Yeah, of course you have, you bum.
I saw it. I usually wait till to video. I saw it in the theater only because we're going to do a Patreon podcast.
Oh, okay.
So.
And I really want to see Murder on the Orient Express. I really love Kenneth Branagh, so the fact that he directed this and whatnot, and there's some marvelous people in that cast.
Really, a lot of big names.
Plus,
Kenneth Branagh did a wonderful job. I'm sure that's no surprise.
Have you seen the early? Had you seen the earlier versions when you saw?
Yeah, I know the early one. I read the book actually back in the day.
Yeah, me too.
So I love the story.
That's a story.
I mean, normally I don't want remakes.
Yeah.
But there are things, if they're done right, with enough love by the right people, hey, bring it on. And there's nothing wrong with the first version at all. But I love Branagh as a director, and as an actor. And he's got some heavyweights in there, so it just looks great. And I want to see it badly.
There was a TV movie version with David Suchet, who did all the television Hercule Poirot, which is almost as good as the first movie version.
Oh, I'm unaware of that. Okay.
But I just want to say the one thing is there's always something when you do a remake, you may want to concentrate on something that the other one took for granted. And was the David Suchet one? The thing I liked, and it really wasn't in the book, Poirot has to make a decision at the end of that movie. And when they did the TV version, he really had to wrestle with which way he was going to go. Well, it was kind of in the first movie version. Oh, I kind of knew that what he was going to do because Sherlock Holmes did it in like 4 other stories.
Yeah, he did.
But
I missed it if you said so, Rick. Did you see the new one yet?
no, I haven't seen the new one.
Okay. Well, you guys know the story, but I can tell you it was very beautifully done.
I'll probably wait for it to come to Amazon. It might even be there now.
It is on Amazon. Like I said, I don't go to the theater much. Danielle and I watched it on Amazon last night. So you can rent it. You don't have to buy it. It's past that stage.
The one
Joe, one of our live viewers says, sorry, Rick, go ahead.
Just looking at the cast, I'm interested in how Johnny Depp's going to play the role. I know every member. I've seen 2 movie versions. I know every member of every character in the supporting cast. I'm just curious if Johnny Depp's going to play that role that he's cast in.
He did well. Everybody did well. Joe, a live viewer, says that you need to check out The Shape of Water if you haven't yet. So
that's very high on our list to see as well. I like the idea of it. Early on, I heard.
Sorry, I should have said his name. John Olith said that. So
Okay.
Go ahead.
Early on, I heard someone reference it as a kind of a Creature of the Black Lagoon love story.
Mm-hmm.
And Creature of the Black Lagoon is one of my favorite films. So I was curious right from the get-go. I like Del Toro. I'm not the fan of Del Toro that everybody else is. I do not think he walks on water. I think he's talented. I think he's very talented. But I've really been waiting for him to knock one out of the park, and I'm hoping this is it. We had an event here in talking about what everybody's watching lately. We discovered our television actually plays cable, like the internet.
It didn't before? You didn't think it did?
We had no clue.
Oh, okay.
We came across it completely by accident.
For those who don't know, who don't are listening and don't know, Joe Pulver, he's in Germany, so he has to wait on things that us Americans don't have to wait on as far as entertainment sometimes.
And he's mostly broke, so that
and you've had really bad health for the last few months. So
since August, yeah. But I saw a movie the other day I haven't seen since I was a kid or early teenager, which was Devil Girl from Mars.
I've seen that. Which
is one of those old things. I can't even tell you if it's any good or not. Because I'm so fond of it. And it was one of those things I saw on a Saturday afternoon when I was, 13 maybe, give or take, somewhere in that ballpark.
They had TV then?
Yeah. So to see it, to come across it, was like, oh my God. So I sat there and I watched that. I was just absolutely thrilled to death.
Is it campy? I haven't seen it.
It's a British science fiction movie from the 50s.
Okay.
Yeah. And I have a very major soft spot for old sci-fi robots. And this robot is horrible, which I think endears it to me all the much more.
It's so ugly it's cute kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you know, not up to today's standards. We'll put it that way.
Right.
Kind of blocky.
I mean, compared to Gort and compared to Robbie, it's not even a, you know, but I like it. So, and the woman who plays Nyla, it's like, well, her I like, and she compares to all kinds of women. She's
a little like Kate Blanchett in a way.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's funny because, again, I haven't seen this thing in damn near 50 years. I thought, you know, if I saw this thing and I was 13 or so, which is probably a pretty fair guess, looking at her with the cape, the boots, just in general, being the comic book fan I would have thought she was a great villain. You know, the ray gun and, you know, that's what I would have saw her as, a comic book villain.
No, I forget the name of the actress.
But I don't remember.
No, but just I'll tell you some stuff she's in that may have been overlooked. If you see Quo Vadis, the Roman Empire spectacle with Robert
I know what you're talking about.
She plays the Nero's wife. So she's the main villainess of Quo Vadis. And that's where I first noticed her. And then I said, oh, she's also Devil Girl from Mars. And she's also she's in a very good thriller called 23 Steps to Baker Street with Van Johnson. And I don't want to go into the role she plays, but she's got an incredible role in that.
And this is why our buddy Rick is the encyclopedia.
That's right.
Well, if I was the encyclopedia, I would know her name. I have to look it up.
For those who don't know, you know, I'm all about a community with Lovecraft eZine, you know, and one of the things we've been doing recently is movie night on Saturday nights at 10 Eastern time. So which would be 9 Central, 7 Pacific, and the middle of the night for you Europeans. But anyway, last night, as per Rick's suggestion, by the way, if you're interested in joining us on movie night, just send an email to Lovecraft eZine. Actually, no, I'm sorry. Go to Rabbit, RABB.IT, RABB.IT. Sign up and then add me. I'm Mike Davis 222, and I'll invite you next time we do a movie night, which is pretty much every Saturday night. Anyway, Norless Tapes we watched last night, which is very similar to Cold Shack. You want to, you know, the Night Stalker, you want to take a minute and talk about Norless Tapes? Because I did enjoy it. 1973 movie. Okay,
what the situation there is Dan Curtis was the producer of Night Stalker and the Night Strangler. Now, he was known for Dark Shadows, the TV soap opera. And the rights to Kolchak belonged to an author now deceased called Jeff Rice, who had an unpublished novel actually called the Kolchak Tapes. Because if you remember the first Kolchak movie, he was recording all his experiences on videotapes, and he did that throughout the second TV movie and the eventual TV series, which Dan Curtis was not involved in. He had no involvement with the TV series. So Jeff Rice had the rights to the Kolchak character. It was in an unpublished novel. The reason why the novel was unpublished was there had been an earlier novel called The Progeny of the Adder, which was about a vampire running rampant in Washington, D.C. And I think Leslie Whitten wrote that. So
wait a minute, a vampire on the loose in D.C.?
Yeah, it was.
I would say that's contemporary nonfiction,
based on real events.
I would say it's very similar to conceptually to Night Stalker. You know, he's the vampires robbing blood banks. police are shooting at him and they have no effect. And the speculation is he wearing, is he a vampire? Is he wearing bulletproof? It kind of doesn't get resolved whether he's a vampire until the very end, and it turns out he is a vampire. But that was the genesis of Night. So Dan Curtis, they used to be these mystery movies of the week, and they started on Sundays, and they had Columbo and McMillan and Wife and McCloud and all these recurring detectives who would be on.
Yeah, there were. Yeah, I think originally weren't there 4 of them, and they alternated every week.
Yeah, something like that. 4 were alternated. 3 or 4 were alternated, and they had done it. They were trying to do a Wednesday night version, and I think the most successful guy on that was a character named Banachek, played by George Papard, but that wasn't working out. So they said,
I thought but Banachek went on to be its own show, and I thought that seemed to be around for quite a while.
Well, what happened was Banachek was most of the shows on Wednesday night the viewers didn't like, so they ordered more Banachek and canceled the other Wednesday night shows. So Wednesday Mystery Movie of the Week became almost exclusively Banachek. So they were trying to find replacements for that. So they said, why don't we hire Dan Curtis to do a Kolchak-style TV series? So he came up with the Norlis tapes. Now he had to probably, it looks like he covered his tracks copyright-wise so he didn't get sued. He hired a horror writer named Fred Mustard Stewart, who had a bestseller called Mephisto Waltz, to write a plot synopsis. And I
remember that film with Alan Alda.
Yeah, and he hired William Nolan rather than Richard Matheson, who did the Kolchak movies, to do the adaptation. And basically the plot of the Norlis tapes is, instead of a reporter, you get a professional writer in Roy Thinnis as David Norlis. He's doing this sort of Kolchak-style investigation. And for the first case, basically it's, well, rather than a vampire, we'll use a zombie that is draining its victims of human blood to create a statue of a demon that made out of blood that will come to life when it's finished. And that went on. It had decent ratings. They ordered a second movie, which would have been a time travel story. And then there was some sort of strike in Hollywood that prevented that second movie from being made. And the Norlis tapes went off to oblivion, and it's largely forgotten. Now, just on another note, I looked up who Devil Girl from Mars is. Her name was Patricia Laffin, or is Patricia Laffin. I think she's still alive.
Yeah, that sounds correct.
I think she was interviewed by who were we talking about before the show? Robert Gatiss was the
Mark Gatiss.
Mark Gatiss.
Mark Gatiss, I think, interviewed her on one of his Hammer British horror tributes.
I just, by pure happenstance, saw it listed and went, I think I saw that a million years ago. And I clicked on it, and right away, it's like, I remember this. So I was just thrilled. I found it, I mean, it's, when was it made? Mid-50s or something. But it's of a kind of science fiction that was very typical back then, which I was weaned on, and I'm just extremely fond of. So that was great fun, especially when she's first there with the cape, with the ray gun, her attitude, the boots, the skirt, and I'm like, of course you loved her. My God, she's right out of the pages of the comics as a villain. Wow. You know,
You realize the comic books fed all these fetishes of women in black leather, starting with Catwoman.
well, hey, you know, so
I'm not objecting to it. It was done was in the bounds of decency.
you know,
Even though it fed our adolescent fantasies.
oh yeah, hey, you know what? I apologize, and yet I don't apologize. I liked girls. I had these thoughts about girls. You know, some where I want to hold your hand, but I also listen to the Rolling Stones. So, let's spend the night together came up more than a few times.
So you're a normal kid
I mean,
in
so
that respect, at
if
least.
if you were reading comic books,
I was a healthy teenager.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
I can't decide who was. There were two women who competed in my mind for the sexiest woman in the '60s in comic books. One is Madame Hydra, now the Viper, created by Jim Steranko. And the other is probably largely forgotten. There used to be a comic book called Thunder Agents. Which
Okay.
was sort of like a cross between Justice League and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
But
Wally,
you bring up Steranko. He did a lot of women art, nudes, all kinds of stuff. You go to when he was working on Nick Fury with the Countess, where they made him take the what was it? The phone was off the hook, and he wound up.
They replaced it with a gun in the holster.
Yeah,
which was even more phallic.
Yeah, but Steranko, if you just do a plain old internet search for Steranko art, he even did, I don't know if it was a calendar or a book. And
it was a calendar.
It's almost Steranko doing his version of Vargas. And Vargas was somebody who did art for Playboy.
Wasn't it nude women dressed in superhero costumes?
That's my recollection.
Or lack of costumes. It was mainly the cape and the boots.
Yeah.
And the panties and nothing really else.
Yeah.
They were all topless. I remember that.
Well, I don't know how we got on this topic, but
because we like girls.
Well, I just wanted to finish one thing just to give a shout out. Wally Wood did Thunder Agents. The Iron Maiden in that was the rival of Madame Hydra for the sexiest woman in the '60s in the comics.
All right. I think longtime listeners know that I'm a big fan of Ray Bradbury. Read him growing up, still read him. He got his books right in front of me on my computer desk. There's going to be a Fahrenheit 451 movie. Did you guys know about this?
Yeah, I haven't watched the trailer yet.
Great.
Oh, there's a trailer? I didn't know there was a trailer. I'd heard there's one coming.
There's a teaser and a trailer, so when you're looking on YouTube, make sure you get the trailer because it's obviously got Guy Montag played by what's his name, Michael B. Jordan. Is that right?
Oh, the guy from Black Panther and Creed, the African American actor.
I haven't seen those movies yet, so I can't tell you. But yeah, probably sounds right. And Michael Shannon is the captain, of the firemen, if you remember the plot.
Oh, I remember it. Yeah. Who's Michael Shannon? Should I know that name?
General Zod.
Zod.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah. So it's a great trailer. One of the things that Michael Shannon says to Montag or Jordan at the beginning of the trailer, have you ever seen a physical book before? Do you want to know what's inside? Insanity. And this movie just looks so great. My wife's like, you're really excited about this. You're always so unflappable. You're really excited about this movie. I was practically jumping up and down. It looks so great. Well, I gotta look it up and see who plays Clarice.
Right.
Because
Well, I'm gonna. Did you see the earlier version? Um, it was a French movie.
No.
Had a German actor in it. Had Julie Christie as the girl.
No, I was
I
always
thought
afraid
Michael
to.
York. I thought Michael York was in the original
No. It's
451.
Werner something. It's
Oh,
the actor who was in The Spy Who Came In From the Cold, and I can't think of his name.
oh, okay. I
But
mean, I
very,
remember seeing it and liking it. I love the book. I think the
uh,
book is.
it's a
Yeah.
very artsy movie. It's very well done. But there was this one thing that, as a kid, because I had read the book, I wanted the robot dog. So
They're killers.
that's going to be the deciding. If they do the robot dog right, this movie will win me over. I've been waiting decades for the robot dog from Fahrenheit 451.
You know, a lot of the things what sold me on the book. Well, many things sold me on the book, but the things that Clarice says to Guy Montag, you know, to make him realize that he's missing out on life. You know, she'd talk about the people who drive by at high speeds. I sometimes think drivers don't know what grass is or flowers because they never see them slowly. If you showed a driver a green blur, oh yes, he'd say that's grass. A pink blur, that's a rose garden. Um, Things like that. It's just, I don't know. I can't quote all the Clarice quotes from the book, but I'm just so happy that they're making this. I hope it's done right. It looks like it is. So I'm very
That's
excited.
great. That's actually wonderful news.
Yeah.
There's and that young man sure can act. So that bodes well to me. Wonderful.
Yeah.
I'm very psyched to hear that. I will pursue this trailer.
You guys were talking comics a few minutes ago. I ran across something that you guys will, I don't know if you'll like it or dislike it. Here's the title of the article. DC Comics agrees it shares a multiverse with Marvel. So, you know,
You're gonna have to explain that to me.
all right, let me see if I can explain it without reading the whole article and boring everybody to death. Let's see. Let me scroll down. Give me a second.
Well, you did have Marvel versus DC, if you remember that.
The multiversity confirmed that there are other multiverses out there. That makes no sense. I think they mean other universes out there. Oh yeah, there's it. Yeah, I can't explain it very well just on this. Just Google that phrase. DC Comics agrees it shares a multiverse with Marvel.
Well,
But I mean, if you got an infinite multiverse, you pretty much have to logically share a universe with Marvel, don't you?
well, you've had comic book stories where you either had Marvel and DC superheroes in parallel worlds, which was the Marvel versus DC, and then they did that wonderful thing where the realities got merged, and Wolverine got merged with Batman, and I forget what he was called. But it was and Robin became merged with Jubilee. That was my favorite storyline of that run. But you've also had storylines where there's some universe where Spider-Man and Superman coexist.
Yeah, I remember they did several of those, I think, in the 80s, where, you know, Batman meets Spider-Man and, you know, Wonder Woman meets, I forget who she met, but the Justice League basically met superheroes in the Marvel universe. I remember it's been a long time, but Spider-Man basically thinking to himself that he's surprised he hasn't run into this guy before, you know, in New York City. I forget who he's talking about. And Superman fought the Hulk, you know. So,
And Superman won.
yeah, that was the Superman that was just getting too powerfully too insanely powerful before John Byrne came along. You know,
Well, when you had Marvel versus DC, you had polls taken over who would beat who, so the fans decided.
oh, I didn't know that.
And the fans decided that Superman should beat the Hulk, Batman should beat Captain America,
That's right, Captain America.
Storm should beat Wonder Woman. They kind of had Spider-Man fighting Superboy, which I would say that was kind of rigged in Spider-Man's favor. You see, a real battle would have been Spider-Man versus Superman. I don't know how the fans would have decided on that one, or Spider-Man versus Batman.
Oh, Spider-Man versus Batman. I think they did one of those.
But if they had it decided by a fan vote, that would be interesting.
Yeah,
because I don't know how that would go if they haven't already done something like that. And I'm trying to. They had Wolverine versus Lobo, which Wolverine won. And I'm trying to think if they had any. They had some they decided themselves. We know Elektra can beat Catwoman. Aquaman can beat Submariner. Flash can beat Quicksilver. Shazam Captain Marvel can beat. Shazam Captain Marvel lost to Thor.
really?
There's probably some other battles I'm not remembering there.
Yeah, because they're both basically magical beings, aren't they?
Yeah.
I'm not as versed in Marvel as I am with DC, but that sounds about right. I think Thor would beat him.
Yeah,
so, besides your being such a great guy and my friend Rick, this is why you're on the show too. I mean, Joe, I casually mentioned this and those team ups from the '80s, and Rick just goes down the line with how it all went.
Oh yeah, I mean, I remember that there were quite a bunch of those, but I don't think I read more than 2 of them. They just didn't push my buttons. But that's why I say Rick's an encyclopedia, because that he might have missed, if there were 12, he might have missed one.
Right. And I wouldn't have bought them. I would have scanned them on the newsstand and remember them. So about. I just remember. I remember Spider-Man and Superman. First, they battled Luthor and Doc Ock, and then they battled Doctor Doom and the Parasite. And it was Batman and the Hulk battling the Joker and the Shaper of Worlds. The Shaper of Worlds is sort of a living cosmic cube, or a living tesseract.
Speaking of Doctor Doom, 20th Century Fox just announced a Doctor Doom solo film, a Silver Surfer. Yep, a Silver Surfer solo film. And I think 6 more X-Men films.
And all of us are hoping they never get made.
Yeah.
Why is that?
If this deal goes through, I'd rather have Marvel do it. Particularly X-Men has been hit or miss with 20th Century Fox. There's some excellent X-Men stuff. There's some horrible stuff. There's some in-between stuff.
Oh, yeah,
Doctor Doom, they can't get right.
But it's under the Marvel umbrella, so maybe. But as far as the X-Men, Apocalypse was a really incredible villain. And in the film, it's like, yeah, okay, big deal. Apocalypse in the film is nowhere near what he was in the comics.
Right.
I just thought that film was, really? You made this? You put money into this?
Well, the thing that's been missing out, whenever they get Doctor Doom right, you have to do Doctor Doom like the Phantom of the Opera. You need somebody with the voice of like Claude Rains or whomever. You need somebody with an incredible voice to do Doctor Doom, because he's going to be masked for most of the time. And you need one of the most unforgettable voice actors in the world to play that role.
Well, before I get off of the comic book
What you
movie,
need to do with Doctor Doom, you're right, Rick, but you need to get lucky. Look at DC when it comes to the Joker with Mark Hamill.
yeah,
It just, bingo. Whoever, and I assume that was Andrea Romano who made Hamill the Joker. But that's just a marriage made in heaven.
And he wasn't the original Joker. The original Joker was the guy from Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Okay. I'm just saying that
the mad scientist, the guy who played, the guy who played the transvestite mad scientist. He was originally supposed to be the Joker. Andrea said
all I'm saying is when they finally got Hamill as the Joker, bingo, you got magic.
Right. I'm just pointing out that Andrea made a gutsy decision. She switched Jokers.
Good point. Before we get off the comic book movie theme, this is from yesterday at Batman-news.com. Batman News, basically. Let's see. John Francis Daly took to Twitter today to say it's happening. And what he's talking about is Flashpoint, the movie. So the Flash movie will be the Flashpoint plot. I don't know, Rick. I'm sick to death of the Flashpoint plot at this. I mean, we did it, the comics, and then the animated movie, and in the TV show done badly, and now they want to do it for a fourth time.
And the problem is, DC's got to learn basics. They're doing things that are too ambitious. Marvel builds up to these. That's why Marvel works. I mean, you look at you can look at things like The Dark World or whatever that had some rough spots in them. But they were good solo films. Weren't great, but good. Hulk, the Incredible Hulk falls in the same category. So by the time you hit the Avengers, you've got a character, you know what worked, you know what didn't work, and then you do it right.
Right.
Rather than, if Marvel Universe would have been a fiasco if the first movie was the Avengers.
Yeah.
Right. And the other thing, too, is whether it's intelligence or luck or whatever the combination is, getting the right actors to play these characters. The Hulk, Mark Ruffalo makes a great Hulk.
Yeah.
And they switched him from the original movie because Universal wanted Edward Norton, who is a good actor but is not right as Ruffalo is perfect for the Hulk.
Yeah, he is.
Downey and Iron Man is, somebody should thank their lucky stars.
But here's what I'm wondering about Flashpoint, guys. I'm wondering, how the plot in Flashpoint went. It reset everything. Is this what they're trying to do with the DC movie universe? Use Flashpoint to reset everything? And then now we've got a different Batman, different Superman, different backstories and so forth. That's what I'm wondering.
I think it's just to have Superman and Batman in the movie in a creative way.
And I think that it's time for DC to completely step away, with the exception of Batman, from all the other, and Wonder Woman, because they just announced that Cheetah will be the villainess in Wonder Woman 2. It's time to step away from the Justice League and just push that to the side for a while. You got a lot of other properties. You got things that could make some incredible movies. Mainstream America did not know the Avengers.
Yeah.
DC has got, if you go back to 1980 or so, there's that first half of the 80s. The Legion of Superheroes was an incredible comic book. Characters, story arcs, man, I'll tell you, you could get some really incredible film. You could do a trilogy out of the Legion of Superheroes, and if done right, yeah, nobody knows these people at the beginning,
Right.
but
And you don't have to do an origin story for each one. It's very simple. I want to join the Legion. I have a superpower.
The other way that they could go, and Kelly and I were talking about this, I think a week or two ago, is say screw continuity. Like they just did a Batman, the Gaslight in Gotham, Batman versus Jack the Ripper animated movie. What if every time DC put out a live action movie, it was some kind of, they just experimented. It was an Elseworld thing. You know, none of them have to make sense. None of them have to line up with each other. And you could pull off some really great plots without worrying about the other movies.
Well,
I don't think the fans care. I don't think America cares anymore, or the fans, not just America, cares anymore about continuity. Sorry, Joe, what were you going to say?
No, they don't. And I could be wrong, but isn't it Bruce Timm who's in charge of the animated?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, yes.
All right. Somebody needs to kick Jeff Johns to the sidewalk.
I 100% agree with that.
Bring in Bruce Timms and say, you know what? You are doing these really wonderful animated films. We want to do live action. Now, maybe he wouldn't know a lot of things about live action, but when it comes to storyline,
yeah, he can write it.
He's got it. So let him come up with the stories, let him write the things, and then you find somebody like Kevin Feige to go out and find the right actor to play this stuff. Now, I like Ben Affleck as an actor a lot, but the idea of Ben Affleck as Batman leaves me cold.
It's okay to be wrong sometimes, Joe.
Oh, okay. I'm wrong a lot. It just
he started out well in the first movie, but he kind of walked through the role in the second one.
But I do think it's time for DC to just turn their back on the Justice League for a while and start looking at other properties, because they got a lot of other ones.
And do you really need big name actors to fill these shoes?
There's a lot. You need talented actors. You need the right actors.
Yeah.
And let's say if we want to go back to B movies, there was some excellent film series which had the same actor playing the role and zero continuity after a while. I love Peter Cushing as Baron Frankenstein. After the first two movies, there's no continuity in that series at all. Some movies he's a sympathetic guy. Some movies he's an outright SOB. They all worked to different levels. No continuity. There's the same actor playing a good role.
Tonk82 says on the live text chat, he says, with the Killing Joke, they did it wrong, though, and it was Bruce Timm's fault to some degree. I haven't even seen the Killing Joke because I heard it's so bad.
Well, I'm not saying that he hits a home run every time. I'm just saying, in general, he seems to know what he's doing.
Yeah.
And I mean, Jesus, if he was hitting a home run every time, then
Man, I can't agree with you more, Joe, in kicking Jeff Johns to the curb. I think that guy is way overrated.
But as I say, the best Batman movie I ever saw was the animated Mask of the Phantasm. To me, that's better
Well, the
than
other
any.
thing
that was
too
good.
is, what the hell is a director?
Zack Snyder?
Yeah, this guy can make a beautiful film, but I don't know that he ever watched any great movies. He might have studied special effects and he might have studied cinematography, but does he know anything about film, about the pure power of it? What happens
Ask you a
when
genuine
you get
question.
there's
Zach,
somebody in that seat, and when
yeah.
you get them engaged, you can play with them like a puppet on a string. And I don't think Snyder has got a clue.
Well, let me ask you a question, though. And it's a genuine question. I'm not saying you're wrong about Zack Snyder. I'm not saying that. What I am asking, though, is if the movie plot doesn't make sense, isn't that the writer, not the director?
In general, I would say yes, but not exclusively, because let's face it, you write a film, they
Mm-hmm.
buy the film, they give it to a director, he starts shooting it. They get rewrites all the time, and it's the director's interpretation of what's on the page, and of course, what the executive producer will let them get away with. So sometimes it's the screenwriter, but as far as I'm concerned with the film, it's the director's baby. So
The buck stops with the director, you're saying.
he's the captain of the ship.
He sometimes
You know?
decides the ending, and I'll just give an example. True Romance, which was from a screenplay by Quentin Tarantino, was adapted pretty faithfully, but the ending was changed dramatically.
Really? I didn't know that.
And I think probably for the better. As much as even though Tarantino's ending was very appropriate, I think it was the better to see the new ending for True Romance was the better ending.
All right.
And then we always have the studio. How many times have we heard directors after the fact say, "That's not the movie I made. They changed this. They took out that. They
The
made me
editor
add."
can really fuck with that movie.
No.
Yeah. You're right.
So, unless you're behind the scenes, on most of this stuff, we'll never know. Could be A, could be B, could be C.
I do think that Zack Snyder is an easy fall guy. I'm not saying some of it isn't his fault that the DCEU, the DC universe didn't go so well, but I think he's an easy fall guy. There's more than one person to blame.
Oh, there is, and I'm not just blaming him. And I think, like I said,
a lot of people do just blame him, though.
No. No. And he has, like I said, an incredible amount of talent, but I don't see him as a actor's director. Here's somebody who cinematography, special effects, how the movie looks, he knows that shit, and he gets that stuff. I mean, he can make a movie you wanna watch.
Yeah.
But connecting with the people up on that screen, and it's all about the characters and how they grab you. And I don't think he's got a clue about that.
He made The Watchmen. I had not. That was my first exposure to the storyline. I later read the comic. When I saw The Watchmen, I thought it was great. Now, after I read the story, I could see some of the criticisms, but it's a little difficult because it's after the fact.
See,
You didn't get the spirit of the story is what I think you're aiming at.
I gotta say, he changed the ending, the bad guy at the ending for the better.
Yeah.
You know, having it be, has anyone not seen Watchmen? Having Dr. Manhattan be the fall guy, I thought was brilliant compared to the way that it was done in the comic book.
Yeah, I mean, I was saying that storyline was captivating, but fans had a big problem with it, and I think it's just they felt they didn't get the spirit of the characters.
I really enjoyed the film, but I think there's a richness in Moore's original work that isn't in the film. There's a real depth in the work that isn't in the film. Again, these are just my opinions, and I've been wrong a million times, and if I live much longer, I'll be wrong again,
Well, let's move on to something weird. Here, I'm looking at an article from dreadcentral.com. Here's the title of the article. Someone put a statue of Jason Voorhees in a Minnesota lake for divers to stumble across. This is a real story. This is awesome. Remember the end of Friday the 13th, part 6, Jason Lives, where Megan and Tommy, I know you're not a fan of these, and neither am I, Joe. I still think this is funny. Where Megan and Tommy managed to trap Jason in the bottom of Crystal Lake. Well, it seems that some random person has recreated this scene by planting a Jason statue, complete with mask and machete. Is that how you say that?
Machete.
Machete. Sorry. 120 feet deep in a Minnesotan lake that is supposedly very popular with divers. And if you Google this, someone put a statue of Jason Voorhees in a Minnesota lake for divers to stumble across. It looks like they got some interactive video below that you can explore. So I just thought that was hilarious.
I wonder how, if I was a diver, would I be freaked out or amused?
I did some diving when I was much younger. I don't think I would have been freaked out.
What if he moved? You might have been freaked out.
Yeah, that's much different. But if I saw it at a distance and swam up to it, especially if I was aware of the film, I'd probably be semi-charmed to death.
Yeah. All right, so
I think it's a kind of charming idea if you got the time and whatnot.
Someone's having fun with life, which, hey, that's what it's all about, right?
Can I have a question I want to ask Joe, going back to something he said way earlier.
Yeah.
What was how did you first learn of the creature from the Black Lagoon? Was it from Aurora Models or from the movie?
Had the model, saw the film.
Yeah, that was me too. Those models introduce us to a lot of stuff.
Yes, they did. Now, I still have the Batman. I still have the Frankenstein, Dracula, Mummy, and the Phantom of the Opera. I do not have my Hunchback of Notre Dame, unfortunately. Breaks my heart. But the Phantom of the Opera, that model, looking at that box in Kresge's that Saturday morning, I had to have it. I begged for it, didn't get it. Was told, save my money, and you bet I did. Took me quite a while to save that amount of money. But when I finally saw the Phantom, and my first Phantom was Claude Rains, by the way.
Yeah.
Who there's a lot to love with the other Phantoms, but I can't help it. Claude Rains is just brilliant. So he's number one on the charts to me. But yeah, I adored those models. I mean, I had the Godzilla, I had the King Kong. What am I missing?
The Witch and the Bride of Frankenstein.
For some reason, I never had the Bride of Frankenstein, which is weird, because that is, ever since I saw the film, is far and away my favorite Frankenstein film, and I adore anything Frankenstein. And the Bride visually is just wow. But I don't know why I never had that one.
Well, tonight is Oscar night. Starts in about an hour if you're watching live. And if you're listening to this later, you already have all the answers. But we've got Get Out. We got a couple of horror movies. If The Shape of Water is a horror movie, if you want to consider it a horror movie, in for Best Picture. So, Get Out, The Shape of Water.
Which I have not seen Get Out. I'm looking forward to it down the road. But I'm kind of excited that there's a horror film as Best Picture.
Yeah.
What we did,
Rick could know much better than me, but it seems like it's been forever since there's been a horror film. Best Picture, Best Director, Best Screenplay, any of that.
If you consider Silence of the Lambs a horror movie, that was the only one, really.
Okay.
Oh.
Nothing for Alien, Rick?
Wasn't Best Picture. Probably it might have had effects. I don't know. It might have won something, but that's the only thing that ever won Best Picture that I would consider horror was Silence of the Lambs. We had a Best Actor in a horror movie in the 30s when Frederick March won it for Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and that was actually a tie. I think Wallace Beery won it for some other movie, The Champ, I think. But we did have a monster as Best Actor.
We've got Daniel Kaluuya. I hope I'm saying his name right. In Get Out, he's up for Best Actor.
He is also he's also in Black Panther, by the way.
Oh, is he? Okay.
Plays a tribal leader.
And Sally Hawkins in The Shape of Water. You know, I have seen Get Out. I have not seen The Shape of Water. Mainly because it's not out on video yet, but I don't know. Everyone seems so excited about it, and I think I know the entire plot just from the trailer, and I'm not very excited about it.
Well, the one thing I will say about The Shape of Water, I haven't been as charmed by the name of the film as I am by this one since The Name of the Rose.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I just think The Shape of Water, when you first hear it, you turn towards it. It's like, what's that?
Here's a title for you. Here's a title for you, also up for Best Picture. Three billboards outside
Ebbing, Minnesota.
Missouri. That's a title for you too.
It's a great title. It's a film I've seen.
Have you? Is it worth seeing?
No. I've seen trailers. I've seen interviews. I've seen reviews on the BBC. It's a film that's on my list.
It looks interesting. The first thing I thought of when I saw the title and I've not seen any of the trailers yet, was Steve Martin's L.A. Story. You remember that movie where the billboard talks to Steve Martin?
Was that the one that was old movies spliced together, or is that
No. That was
that was Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid?
Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid. Yeah, no. L.A. Story is he stops at this billboard on the highway, and the billboard starts talking to him, with text. And it's a very, very charming movie. I think it came out around 1990. If you haven't seen it, anybody listening, if you haven't seen L.A. Story, we're not talking about a horror movie, of course. We're just talking about movies. It's definitely worth seeing. So, all right, we've got Darkest Hour, which is a World War II film. Gary Oldman's up for Best Actor. Sally Hawkins from The Shape of Water. I said that. I don't know. I just thought I'd briefly bring up the Oscars and see if you guys wanted to talk about any of those.
Oldman, I've seen many different clips, the trailer, interviews. He looks absolutely brilliant. Matter of fact, the BBC just did a short piece on him in the makeup.
The Omen. What are you talking about?
Gary Oldman. Gary
Oldman.
Churchill.
Yeah. He is unrecognizable, isn't he?
Yeah. 3 hours a day for the makeup. I found it interesting them doing his hair. But supposedly the performance is just staggering. It's the kind of reason we put our butts in those chairs, because let's face it, I freely admit there are films that make me cry. There are films where I'm sitting there and I am pissed off. Not because it's a bad movie, but because the movie is powerful enough and pushes the right buttons. It wants me mad.
Right.
That's what I want in a film. I want that film to take me over. If that's what I think, if you truly love movies, that's what you want. You want to become completely immersed. And if you don't, well, why are you sitting there for 90 minutes or 2 hours or whatever?
Yeah.
Because this shit ain't cheap anymore.
Well, I have no doubt that Gary Oldman does a fantastic job as Winston Churchill. So.
And I think the climate favors a Churchill-like performance.
Yeah. Okay, so
also,
yeah,
I agree. In this era, boy, wouldn't we like Churchills as leaders?
Yeah. Let's see, what else do I have here?
The new Blade Runner is up for something, probably effects or something. Or cinematography, if I remember correctly.
I still have yet to watch that. I've got a feeling I'll like it though.
We thoroughly enjoyed it. Of course, I'm married to a employee of what company is this Blade Runner? Tyrell? I don't remember. Cat adores Blade Runner. We have the box set, with like 7,000 hours of bonus extras. I think not only can she quote chapter and verse of every film and tell you, 4 seconds before blah, blah, blah comes in through that door over there, but I think all the bonus material she can recite cold as well.
Did both of you like the new movie?
Yeah, she really liked it, and I enjoyed it. I'm not anywhere near the fanatic she is. I did really enjoy the first one. So
Yeah. Whitney Treble, and let's see who else. I've got a couple of new patrons. I just wanted to thank all my patrons for being there, helping me pay the bills, helping the eZine projects to keep going. If you want to be a Patreon and listen to the Patreon podcast, the link is at the bottom, is in the synopsis, whatever you want to call it. Whether you're listening on iTunes or elsewhere, or if you're watching it on YouTube. If you're not, you should listen to the This Is Horror podcast too. I think they do things very differently than we do here, but I think both shows complement each other. Just Google This Is Horror podcast, and I'm sure you'll come right to it. But
yeah, I've heard quite a few of those. They're very good.
Yeah. I'm very interested in, I didn't really do this the right way last time. I'm very interested in how people listen or watch the podcast. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put up 2 prizes, Nightmare's Disciple or whatever. And tell me what you want in the subject of the email. But in the body of the email, tell me how you listen to the show. Tell me where you listen to the show. I mean, where you go to sleep, if you're on the road, if you're at work, that kind of thing. Just email Lovecraft eZine prizes at gmail.com. And again, in the email subject, put whichever book you want. All you got to do is go to lovecraftezine.com and click on Lovecraft eZine books, and you'll see the entire list. Put the name of the book in the title, and tell me how you listen or watch the show in the body of the, because I'm very curious, and we'll draw 2 winners next Sunday. So, and I'll send you the books. Anything else you guys want to talk about today?
I'm kind of done.
I don't have a lot of news.
Sorry, what, Rick?
I'm slowly worn out after 9 years.
Yeah, you're worn out.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, both of you guys are dealing with some pretty heavy health issues. So
Yeah, I'm recovering from
sure you are worn
pneumonia,
out.
in case anybody.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
I mean, I think I'm pretty much over it, but it's time for me to take a break.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, thank you for being on the show, Rick. Thank you for being on the show today, Joe. It's so good to see you, Joe. Next week on the best, we've got Laird Barron. So,
yay, Laird.
Yeah.
The man.
Yeah. For watching, everyone. Thanks for listening. What, Joe?
No matter what the critics say. Oh, did I say that?
Yeah, he's going places. So anyway, sorry, I can't talk today. Anyway, thanks for listening. Appreciate it, and we will see you in a week.